Ever wonder how much those Hollywood big shots blow on a single freaking movie?
Let's cut the crap.
We're talking budgets that could make a small country blush.
These so-called film budgets are just glorified plans to keep studio execs from screwing up so badly they end up living in a cardboard box.
Like, seriously, how the fuck do they spend so much cash?
Although, let's be real, some of the garbage they put out, they kind of deserve to be homeless.
Okay, maybe a little harsh, but I get your point.
It
Still, this shit is fascinating.
is.
We dove deep into some real budget breakdowns, and things get wild.
Yeah.
Ready to unpack this?
Hit me with it.
All right, so first up, we got to talk about those A-list actors and their insane paychecks.
Oh, yeah.
Bruce Willis, for Unbreakable, walked away with a cool $20 million.
Big money.
$20 million. That's enough to buy a small island and rename it Yippee-Ki-Yay Island.
And that's just for one actor. It's insane how much these studios are willing to shell out to get a big name attached to a project.
Right.
But here's the kicker. Sometimes it's not even worth it.
What do you mean?
A big star doesn't guarantee a good movie.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Remember John Carter?
Oh, God.
Taylor Kitsch got paid a shit ton of money for that flop.
Ouch. Yeah, that movie was a total disaster. Dude. But sometimes those big names do deliver.
Sure.
What about M. Night Shyamalan, the director of Unbreakable? Did he make bank too?
He did all right.
How much are we talking?
But nothing compared to Willis. Shyamalan got over $5 million for writing and directing. It's a decent chunk of change, sure, but it highlights the huge disparity between what actors and directors earn.
Yeah, true.
And what's even more interesting is that Shyamalan also had final cut on the film.
Final cut. What the hell is that?
Final cut basically means the director has the ultimate say in how the movie is edited. It's a big deal, a sign of creative control.
Oh, go ahead.
Studios don't hand that out easily, especially to directors who haven't proven themselves.
Makes sense.
So
Shyamalan had creative freedom, AD, a fat paycheck.
not bad.
Not bad for a dude who makes movies about creepy kids and twist endings.
Don't forget the plants. Dude loves his plants.
The plants. Almost forgot about that Shyamalan signature. Okay, so we've talked about actors and directors, but what about all those other folks who work their asses off behind the scenes? You know, the CGI wizards, the music composers, the guys who make sure the explosions look epic.
Those unsung heroes are a crucial part of the filmmaking process, and their contributions definitely don't come cheap. Visual effects alone can cost tens of millions.
Seriously.
Oh yeah. Take Terminator 3, for example.
What about it?
They dropped a cool $20 million on CGI.
For real.
You'd think with that much money they could have made a decent sequel.
Or at least paid Arnold enough to stop him from becoming governor.
Maybe that was the plan all along.
Huh. Maybe you're right. Speaking of big budgets, what about Lara Croft? Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life. That movie was a train wreck.
Yeah, that one blew over $118 million. And get this, Angelina Jolie got $12 million for her role.
You're kidding.
Talk about throwing money down the drain.
Seriously, no wonder they couldn't afford a decent script. So we've seen how these Hollywood hotshots can blow through cash like it's going out of style.
Yeah.
But even those big budget flicks have to cut corners sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What are some of the tricks of the trade?
Avoiding night shoots is a big one. Night shoots require powerful, expensive lighting, and those nighttime rates for the crew can add up quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
But imagine telling Quentin Tarantino he can't shoot at night.
Huh. Good luck with that.
That'd be like telling a shark it can't swim.
Another tactic is ditching famous locations. Filming in iconic spots like Times Square, for example, requires permits shutting down streets dealing with crowds.
Oh yeah, I bet.
It's a logistical nightmare and a financial black hole.
So basically, if you see a movie set in New York, but it doesn't look like they shot it anywhere near New York, they probably didn't.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then there's the casting game. Using lesser-known actors can save millions.
Yeah, but imagine Spielberg trying to convince Tom Cruise to take a pay cut. Now that's a scene I'd pay to see.
Right. It'd be like trying to wrestle a steak away from a Rottweiler.
Okay, so let's say you're a director and you're working with a studio on a big budget project. What happens when you go over budget? Do they just give you a slap on the wrist and tell you to be more careful next time?
Hell no. Going over budget can be a huge fucking problem. Sometimes studios eat the cost, writing it off as an expensive lesson learned.
Ouch.
Other times the producers get screwed, ending up in debt up to their eyeballs.
Yikes. So it's high stakes, high pressure.
Oh, yeah.
No wonder so many directors end up with ulcers.
It's a tough gig.
But wait, what about movies like Titanic? Doesn't that go way over budget? Like massively over budget?
It did, and it's a perfect example of what can happen when a director has a vision and a studio that's willing to risk everything to see it realized. James Cameron, the director, basically said, screw my paycheck, I gotta finish this damn movie.
That's some serious dedication.
Yeah.
Didn't he defer his entire director's fee and offer to forego his share of the profits if the movie went over budget?
Yep. He basically put his money where his mouth was. Wow.
It was a huge gamble, but it paid off. Titanic became the highest-grossing film of all time, at least until Cameron's other little project, Avatar, came along and blew it out of the water.
So the lesson here is, if you're a director with a crazy expensive vision, make sure you're James Cameron or have a time machine and invest in Apple stock in the 80s.
Exactly. It's either genius or dumb luck.
Probably a little bit of both.
But let's be real, most of us aren't James Cameron, so maybe sticking to a budget is a good idea. Speaking of budgets, the whole money thing is just the tip of the iceberg. What's even more fucked up is how these studios cook the books.
What are you talking about?
Hollywood accounting is basically a black art designed to make sure nobody except the bigwigs sees a dime of profit.
Seriously. You're telling me a movie like Spider-Man 2, which made almost $800 million worldwide, didn't turn a profit? That's some bullshit. Oh, it's total bullshit. But that's how they do it. They load up the budget with all sorts of shady expenses, creative accounting tricks, whatever it takes to make the numbers work in their favor. It's like a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, except instead of a rabbit, it's millions of dollars disappearing into thin air.
So basically, even if a movie makes $1 billion, they can still claim it lost money.
Yep.
Are you telling me these studios are basically running a goddamn Ponzi scheme?
It's not quite a Ponzi scheme, but it's definitely a system designed to benefit those at the top. And it's not just the studios. The big-name actors and directors, they're all in on it too.
What do you mean?
They'll take a smaller upfront salary in exchange for a percentage of the net profits.
Oh, I see.
But as we've already established, there are rarely any net profits to speak of.
So it's like a rigged casino where the house always wins.
Pretty much.
These guys are laughing all the way to the bank while everyone else is fighting over scraps.
It's the Hollywood way.
It's enough to make you want to burn the whole fucking system down.
I hear you. It's a frustrating reality. But let's not get too carried away with the revolutionary talk. Instead, let's shift gears and talk about how filmmakers can navigate the system without selling their souls to the studio devils.
All right, let's say you're a filmmaker. You've got a killer script, and you're not trying to become the next Michael Bay.
Right.
How the hell do you make a movie without getting sucked into that Hollywood bullshit machine?
That's where independent filmmaking comes in. It's a whole different ballgame with its own set of challenges and rewards. Independent filmmakers, they're the ones pushing boundaries, telling stories that matter without all the Hollywood baggage.
But how do you even get funding? It's not like they can just walk into a bank and say, hey, I want to make a movie about a talking pineapple. Give me $1 million.
It's tough, no doubt.
Yeah.
But there are options. Crowdfunding has become a game changer, allowing filmmakers to connect directly with their audience and raise money outside the traditional system.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
How does that even work?
Platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo have helped countless indie films get off the ground.
So it's like a David versus Goliath situation.
Exactly.
The little guy's taking on the Hollywood machine.
You got it.
I kind of love that underdog story.
There's definitely a sense of that. It's a constant struggle, but that's what makes it so exciting. When you see an indie film that breaks through all the noise and makes a real impact, it's a victory for everyone who believes in the power of storytelling.
Speaking of making an impact, let's talk about some of those Hollywood hacks for cutting costs. Avoiding night shoots and ditching famous locations makes sense. But what about using unknown actors? Doesn't that risk turning your movie into a snooze fest?
Not necessarily. Some of the most compelling performances come from actors you've never heard of. They're hungry, they're passionate, and they're not jaded by years of Hollywood bullshit.
Right.
Plus, they're a hell of a lot cheaper than Tom Cruise.
All right, fair enough. But what about this deferring salaries thing? Isn't that just asking for trouble? I mean, what if the movie tanks? Do those actors just end up working for free?
It can be risky for sure. It's basically a gamble. You're betting on the movie being a success. And if it is, everyone gets a bigger piece of the pie. But if it flops, well, you could end up working for peanuts.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. But hey, that's Hollywood for you. Always a gamble. Speaking of gambles,
Yeah.
let's talk about the mother of all budget blowouts, Titanic. James Cameron,
Yeah.
that crazy son of a bitch, almost sank the studio with that one.
He sure did. But what's remarkable about Titanic isn't just the overblown budget. It's the fact that Cameron was so committed to his vision that he was willing to put his own money on the line. He deferred his entire director's fee and offered to forego his share of the profits if the movie went over budget.
So he basically said, if this movie tanks, I'm going down with the ship.
Exactly.
That's some balls, man.
Yeah.
That's the kind of balls it takes to make a cinematic masterpiece.
For sure.
Or a colossal disaster. Luckily for Cameron, it was the former.
Definitely lucky.
But I bet the studio execs were shitting bricks the whole time.
Oh, they were sweating bullets for sure. But in the end, it paid off big time. Titanic became the highest grossing film of all time, at least until Cameron's other little project, Avatar, came along and blew it out of the water.
So the lesson here is, if you're a director with a crazy expensive vision, make sure you're James Cameron.
Right.
Or have a time machine and invest in Apple stock in the 80s. Either way, it's a good strategy for financial success.
But let's bring it back to film budgets. We talked about the big studios, the indie darlings. But what about those mid-budget movies?
The ones that aren't quite blockbusters, but aren't exactly art house flicks either.
Yeah, exactly. Where do they fit into this whole crazy equation?
The middle child of the film world. Often overlooked, often underestimated, but sometimes capable of surprising us all. These movies are where you find a lot of hidden gems, the kind of films that stay with you long after the credits roll.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Think Lost in Translation or Little Miss Sunshine.
Those are some great examples. But with streaming services taking over the world, are those mid-budget movies even surviving anymore?
It seems like it's all about blockbusters and indie darlings these days.
That's the million-dollar question. The landscape is definitely changing, and the traditional model of theatrical releases is being challenged. But I believe there will always be a place for stories that connect with audiences on a human level, regardless of the budget or the platform.
I hope you're right. Because let's be real, sometimes you just want a good movie that doesn't involve superheroes or explosions.
Exactly. Sometimes you just want a story that makes you think, makes you feel something. And those stories can come in all shapes and sizes and at all budget levels.
Okay, so what's the future of film budgeting? Are we going to see more mega-budget spectacles, more micro-budget indies, or something in between?
It's hard to say for sure, but one thing's for certain. The way we consume movies is evolving, and the way movies are financed will have to adapt. Maybe we'll see a rise in hybrid models with studios and streaming services collaborating on projects, or more innovative crowdfunding approaches.
Maybe we'll see a day when AI is writing and directing movies, and the only humans involved are the ones coding the algorithms.
Huh. That'll save a ton on salaries.
Exactly. Okay, enough with the philosophical mumbo-jumbo. Let's get back to the dirt. We've covered a lot of ground here. But I'm curious, what's the most mind-blowing budget-related fact you've come across in your research?
Something that made you say, holy shit, they spent how much SCH on what?
Yep. Spill the tea.
That's a tough one. There are so many examples of Hollywood excess.
So bad.
But one that sticks with me is from Terminator 3. Arnold Schwarzenegger, bless his heart, negotiated a clause in his contract that gave him a private jet for the duration of filming.
A private jet? For how long? The whole shoot?
The whole damn shoot. And not just any private jet.
No.
A Gulfstream III decked out with all the bells and whistles.
For real?
That little perk alone cost the studio over $1 million.
$1 million for a freaking private jet? That's more than most indie filmmakers get for their entire movie.
It's insane, right? But that's the kind of extravagance that used to be commonplace in Hollywood.
Wow.
And it's a big part of the reason why so many studios are struggling to stay afloat these days.
So basically, Arnold single-handedly brought down the studio system with his love of luxury air travel.
Well, maybe not single-handedly, but let's just say his private jet didn't help.
All right, so the moral of the story is, if you want to make it in Hollywood, either be Arnold Schwarzenegger or learn to fly coach.
Or better yet, make your own damn movies and tell the stories you want to tell without all the Hollywood bullshit. Who knows, maybe you'll even be able to afford your own private jet someday.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, before we wrap things up, I gotta ask, what's the one takeaway you want our listeners to remember from this deep dive into Hollywood spending sprees?
That's easy. Don't believe the hype. The numbers you see reported for movie budgets are often inflated, misleading, and sometimes downright fabricated. It's all a game of smoke and mirrors designed to obfuscate the real costs and protect the bottom line.
So basically, it's all a big fucking illusion.
Pretty much. The real story is much more complicated and often much less glamorous than what you see on the surface.
All right, so we've shit all over these big-budget Hollywood movies and their shady accounting practices. But let's be real, some of these films are actually pretty damn good.
Sure.
What about those movies that manage to balance artistic vision with financial success?
The ones that make a ton of money without sacrificing quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are those just flukes?
They're not exactly flukes, but they're definitely rare.
Okay.
Those are the unicorns of the film industry, the ones that prove it's possible to create something both commercially viable and critically acclaimed.
I like that, unicorns.
Think Jaws or The Godfather. They made a shit ton of money, and they're considered
But
masterpieces.
what's the secret sauce? Is it just dumb luck?
Or is there some kind of formula for making a movie that's both a critical and commercial hit?
Give us the inside scoop.
There's no magic formula, unfortunately. If there was, everyone would be using it.
Yeah.
But there are definitely certain factors that seem to contribute to success.
Like what?
First and foremost, you need a strong script.
Okay.
A story that resonates with audiences, characters, they care about dialogue that crackles. That's the foundation.
Okay. A killer script.
Yeah.
What else?
You need a talented director with a clear vision. Someone who can bring the story to life on screen in a way that's both engaging and visually stunning. Someone who can elevate the material and make it more than just words on a page.
So basically you need a Spielberg or a Tarantino behind the camera.
Not necessarily. There are plenty of talented directors out there who haven't reached that level of fame yet, but they all share a passion for storytelling and a unique ability to translate that passion onto the screen.
All right, great script, a visionary director. What else goes into making a hit movie?
A talented cast, of course.
Right?
Actors who can embody their characters and bring depth and nuance to their performances. And let's not forget the unsung heroes behind the scenes.
The crew.
The editors, the composers, the visual effects artists, they all play a vital role in shaping the final product.
So it's a team effort, like a well-oiled machine where every cog is essential.
Exactly. It takes a village to raise a movie, as they say.
All right, so let's say you've got all the ingredients.
A killer script, a visionary director, a talented cast, a dedicated crew.
Is that enough to guarantee success?
Unfortunately, no. There's still a huge element of luck involved. The right release date, the right marketing campaign, the right buzz, all of these factors can make or break a movie.
So even with all the talent and hard work in the world, it still comes down to a roll of the dice. That seems kind of fucks up.
In a way, yes, but that's what makes the film industry so unpredictable and exciting. It's a high-stakes game, and the rewards can be enormous. But the risks are high, too.
All right, last question before we wrap things up. What advice would you give to aspiring filmmakers who dream of making movies that matter without breaking the bank? Any wisdom you can drop on these young guns?
My advice, don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to fail. Tell the stories that are burning inside you, even if they don't fit into any neat little boxes. And remember, the most important thing is to make something you're proud of. If you do that, the rest will follow.
Well said. And on that note, let's end this deep dive into Hollywood spending sprees with a toast to all the filmmakers out there, big and small, who are pushing the boundaries of storytelling and creating cinematic magic.
Cheers to that. And to anyone out there who has a dream, no matter how crazy or ambitious it may seem, don't let anyone tell you it can't be done. Go out there and make it happen.
That's a wrap, folks. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the world of Hollywood budgets. We've seen how those fuckers spend their cash, how they cook the books, and how even with all the money in the world, there's no guarantee of success. It's a crazy business, but hey, that's showbiz.